is reaching you on Leadership Television. My name is Winnie Frederick, and I'll be taking you on a review of today's headline stories on some select newspapers. And as you can see, I'm in the studio, so we are not going to be discussing, we are just going to be reviewing paper headlines today. We have some papers on our menu leadership. We have This Day, we have Daily Sun, we have Vanguard newspaper, Blueprint newspaper, The Guardian, and of course, the Punch newspaper. And as usual, program we are starting off with leadership. What is leadership leading with? Today, Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. It says rising insecurity. 2023 elections may be cancelled or postponed. INEC warns. Rising insecurity. 2023 elections may be cancelled or postponed. INEC warns. If the insecurity is not monitored and dealt with decisively, it could ultimately culminate in the cancellation and or postponement of elections. Rising insecurity, 2023 elections may be cancelled or postponed. INEC warns. If this insecurity is not monitored and dealt with decisively, it could ultimately culminate in the cancellation and or postponement of elections. The leading story is on page 4 of Leadership. Leadership also has other stories, interesting stories on its cover as well. We have APC, Labour Party, and NPP scale up campaign in states. For more of the stories, you can read more on page 7 of Leadership. Of course, just beneath the masthead, we have a story on the forthcoming leadership awards coming up on the 29th of this month. It says leadership award will spur me to continue to fight for equity, justice, Wike. Leadership award will spur me to continue to fight for equity, justice, Wike. The River State Governor Nyesom Ezewo Wike has said that his nominations as Leadership Politician of the Year 2022 will spur him to continue to fight for equity, fairness, and justice in the country. That's just a tip of the story. For all the stories, you go over to page 4 of Leadership newspaper. Of course, you can also log on to their website, www.leadership.ng. And on Pope the Master, you have stories. FCTA reintroduces pack and pay policy in Abuja. And of course, the citizens are kicking against it. PMB canvasses vote for Tinubu Binani in Adamawa. These are some of the stories on the cover of Leadership newspaper. From Leadership newspaper, let's see what other papers have as their leading stories. We are taking the Punch. The Punch newspaper. The Punch says cash limits, customers protest as banks begin enforcement. Cash limits, customers protest as banks begin enforcement. Customers say policy will affect cash-based businesses. Demand fresh review. Bank ATMs dispense old notes despite CBN directive. New note scarcity persists. Cash limits, customers protest as banks begin enforcement. Customers say policy will affect cash-based businesses. Demand fresh review. Bank ATMs dispense old notes despite CBN directive. New note scarcity persists. That's a leading story on the Punch. We also have other stories as well on the Punch newspaper. They are leading. How Yoruba Nation protesters converged 3 a.m. Members killed. How Yoruba Nation protesters converged 3 a.m. Members killed. We have some pictures on the cover of the Punch to illustrate the story. We can, of course, can see pictures of vehicles set ablaze and some of police patrol vans there. How Yoruba Nation's protesters converged 3 a.m. Members killed. About the masthead of the Punch newspaper, we have scarcity. Federal government orders NNPC to reduce petrol price. Scarcity. Federal government orders NNPC to reduce petrol price. Government acquires stakes in Dangote refinery. 3 orders. Government demands 620 million naira ransom for abducted train passengers. Over the weekend, there was reports that some train passengers in Igwe, Edo State were abducted by kidnappers, and now they are demanding 620 million naira ransom for the abducted passengers. From the Punch, we are moving. No, before we leave the Punch newspaper, there's also an interesting story as well. DSS director's wife orders Kano governor candidates arrest. DSS director's wife orders Kano governor candidates arrest. The story is on page 2. For more on the stories, you can log on to Punch website www.punchng.com. From the Punch, we are moving over to this day. What is this day saying? It says, again, INEC raises the alarm, says insecurity may force cancellation of elections. Again, INEC raises the alarm, says insecurity may force cancellation of elections. IPAC accuses governor of using touts to intimidate opponents, destroy campaign materials, vows to resist plot to sack INEC boss, scuttle election. I'll take that again. Again, INEC raises the alarm, says insecurity may force cancellation of elections. IPAC accuses governor of using touts to intimidate opponents, destroy campaign materials, vows to resist plot to sack INEC boss, scuttle election. And of course, the main story on this day today is Buhari Yola canvasses support for Tinubu Binani, other APC candidates. Buhari Yola canvasses support for Tinubu Binani, other APC candidates. Tells Adamawa people Tinubu Shetima can be trusted to deliver. Urges them to make history by electing first female governor. And of course, PDP mocks as Lagos governor. As leading story on this day, and both in master, we see a story: alleged missing 89 trillion naira. CSOs apologize to Emefiele over call for his visa ban. And above that, we have another story: federal government Port Harcourt refinery to commence partial operation before end of first quarter. Federal government Port Harcourt refinery to commence partial operation before end of first quarter. Silva says, why I will happily buy fuel for 300 naira. Says kerosene price deregulated beyond government purview. For more on the stories on this day today, you can also log on to their website at www.thisdaylive.com. So from this day, which paper is the next port of call? Of course, let's look at the Guardian. What is Guardian? Guardian. The Guardian says private sector frets over federal government's 2.43 trillion naira non-oil revenue target. Private sector frets over federal government's 2.43 trillion naira non-oil revenue target. As increasing taxes amid widening poverty. Call for plugging of revenue leakages. Exploit property taxes. Yusuf urges government. I will take the Guardian's leading story once again. Private sector frets over federal government's 2.43 trillion naira non-oil revenue target. Experts decry increasing taxes amid widening poverty. Call for plugging of revenue leakages. Yusuf urges government to exploit property taxes. Still on Guardian newspaper, Nigerian alert amid concerns over new COVID-19 variants. Nigeria alert amid concerns over new COVID-19 variant. This story is on page 6 of the Guardian. Still on Guardian, 6 victims of Edo train attack rescued as police nab 2 more suspects. INEC denies releasing new final list of candidates. Election riggers behind plot to remove Yakubu, IPAC alleges. 1 killed, policeman injured, vehicles burnt as police Yoruba Nation activists clash in Ojota. Stories on Metro page 8 of the Guardian. And for more on the stories, you can also log on to their website. From the Guardian, we are moving over to Vanguard. Vanguard has insecurity as its leading story. Says insecurity polls may be postponed, cancelled, INEC. Insecurity polls may be postponed, cancelled, INEC. Insists no going back Rivers, IREV. Insists no going back on Rivers, IREV. Real-time polling unit results will be uploaded on IREV. INEC must manage security threats, IFES. That's the leading story on Vanguard. And of course, on the right hand side of the paper, we have DSS sued for arresting activists protesting bid to arrest Emefiele. That's it. MC1. And above the masthead of Vanguard, we have Edo train kidnapped, 6 victims rescued, says government, as kidnappers demand 20 million naira ransom per victim. 6 victims rescued, says government, as kidnappers demand 20 million naira ransom per victim. Underneath Vanguard newspaper, we have other stories too. Cash withdrawal, long queues in banks as implementation commences. Power generation drops by 7.6%. Power generation drops by 7.6%, meaning Nigeria has been operating on a 4,000 megawatts, so minus 7.6, so we have just barely the 3,200 megawatts. Health, COVID-19 fresh concerns as new cracking variant emerges. We also have one on sports. It said 2030 World Cup, Ronaldo to earn 200 million to promote Saudi's joint bid. Make history. Elect first female governor, Buhari charges Adamawa voters. Make history. Elect first female governor, Buhari charges Adamawa voters. That's the stories on Vanguard newspaper. For more on the stories, you can also log on to their website, www.vanguardngr.com. We have another story on our menu. Another paper on our menu for review, and that is Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint says INEC's fresh alarm on 2023 polls. Insecurity may force cancellation, postponement if. INEC's fresh alarm on 2023 polls. Insecurity may force cancellation, postponement if. Task security personnel to forestall threats. IPAC slams forces working against INEC check. Says commission emboldened by modern technology. We must develop strong confidence in our country, Buhari. That is on page 6 of Blueprint Newspaper. And still on Binani, Buhari says Binani's victory as Adamawa governor will open doors for women. Binani's victory as Adamawa governor will open doors for women. Buhari urges electorate to queue behind APC candidate. Fintiri Lamido, Lord President on support to state. Buhari has laid foundation for my victory. That's the leading story on Blueprint. And still on Blueprint, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Sylvia, says he won't mind buying fuel at 300 naira per litre after office. I won't mind buying fuel at 300 naira per litre after office. Sylvia explains rise in kerosene price. Port Harcourt refinery to resume operations in March. The story is on page 23 of Blueprint newspaper. And we have his leading story as well on the paper today. Ohinoyi query. Monarch must respect authority, not play God. Ibira leaders. So it's on page 7. It's actually a leading story because the governor had actually queried the traditional leader for disrespecting President Muhammadu Buhari and himself when the president paid courtesy visit to the state. Monarch must respect authority, not play God. Ibira leaders. Well, that is what for now on the Blueprint newspaper. For more of the stories, you can also log on to their websites. Well, yes, this will come to the end on today's paper review on Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Bebo, and don't forget, tomorrow, same time, same station, is another day. See you then. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.